pest control becomes a really big significant piece of that. The damage and the inconvenience it can cause if you have if there's chewing through wires, or the constant having to negate them from getting into feed and things as well. It's the economic and also the labour, the time that goes into the management of that too.
Hey, I'm Shay Keister, and I am your host for the Casual Cattle Conversations podcast, where we connect you with beef industry experts and leaders to improve your own operation. Speaking of improving operations, I'd like to personally invite you to attend my monthly RancherMind Events. RancherMind Events are Q&A calls between cattle producers and industry experts that allow you as the cattle producer to enter a community of people who support and push you to find those improvements and connect with experts who can answer your questions and guide you in the right direction. You can find out more about these events and how to sign up by heading over to my website, casualcattleconversations.com. And while you're there, if you sign up for my newsletter, I'll send you 22 ranch management tips for free that have been shared by the gurus who have been on my show before. Remember, the best way to support podcasts is to share, rate, and review the show so that I know what episodes and content you like and want more of. With that, let's connect you with this week's guest and expert. Alrighty. Well, Jeff and Adam, I am excited to have you on the show today. You two are both new to the show, and we're going to be talking about a new topic because I have not actually talked about rodent management before, but I know I personally do not appreciate them when I see them on my place. So I'm excited to hear about some of the solutions that you guys can offer to myself and the listeners today. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us indeed.
All right, so we're going to kind of jump right into it. And so Jeff, how about you kind of share what are some of the main challenges that farmers and ranchers face with rodents on their operations? What does that look like?
Yeah, so rodents are small animals, right? But they can cause significant damage. They can damage your home, your property, your equipment. Another thing with them is that they reproduce rapidly, so they can cost thousands of dollars in damages and extermination costs if it gets to that point. When you look at them, as far as the home and the ranch, one thing that they can do is they can ruin some equipment. So they can chew on wires and even possibly start fires by chewing through those wires. They can spoil food. And then from a feed perspective, they can contaminate large quantities of feed with their droppings and urine. And then if you have a garden or something like that along your property, they can eat vegetables and fruit, and they can damage your lawn by digging holes and tunnels. So they can do a lot of different types of damage to your property. So that's one way, they kind of are a nuisances that damage and the economic aspect that goes with that. But they can also carry disease. So they can, in addition to that, host fleas and ticks, which carry Lyme and other diseases. So it's an economic piece that, they're causing physical damage, but then the thing that you can't really see all the time is the health damage that they're causing through disease.
Yeah, and those are all very relevant and important topics to keep in mind. Adam, do you have anything kind of want to add as far as what negative impacts rodents are having on farms and ranches today?
Yeah, that's a really good covering actually from Jeff. It's the economic piece, obviously, with the running of a farm is obviously lots of time is required to do that and labor. So anything that's dragging people away from that, I think, becomes another added task to have to look after. So pest control becomes a really big significant piece of that. The damage and the inconvenience it can cause if you have if there's chewing through wires, or the constant having to negate them from getting into feed and things as well. It's the economic and also the labor, the time that goes into the management of that too, a real inconvenience. A big one for us is also the biodiversity challenge that it has as well. It has an impact on native wildlife as well, which has always been close to our hearts at Good Nature. It's something that's sort of part of our ethos. So we see that changing over time, and maybe the way that we do things a little bit differently as well as part of that.
So Adam, do you kind of want to talk about, what industry you're in? What is Good Nature? What does your role look like today?
Yeah, we'd love to. So we essentially started out as a pest control tool in the world of conservation. That's something that's really important to us and dear to us. The people that turn up to our business all the time are here to make the world a better place. But what we've found in doing that, a pest control, a trap that was resetting, was constantly available. We needed to tick some certain boxes to make it apply in the conservation world. Those were having it toxin free, having it to be able to reset, and making sure that the kills, when it did kill, that it was humane. What we've found though, and as the brand in our product has evolved, is that actually we solved some really unique problems in the rural space. And what was a problem we were solving in conservation is actually even just as applicable in the rural setting. So I guess for us, the big one is that we can remove the use of toxin on a farm, which is an increasing social conversation that's coming up. And some of the challenges that come along the use of toxin, of it being, it can be eaten, but it can still take 24 to 48 hours for the pest species to die after chewing that, the rat or the mouse. And of course, they can still cause that damage in that time frame that they're in there. They can still chew on wires, and most importantly, they can also still breed within that time frame. So to make a dent in a rodent population, you really need to kill as fast as, or faster than the actual the rat can breed. Otherwise, you're just sort of band-aiding the issue. So to have something that can reset consistently and actually get through breeding pairs becomes really important to make a dent in a rodent network. And I think that the addition of that, that's removing some toxin, and it's a humane death as well, seems to fit and cater for some really interesting conversations in the rural space. As part of that has been our coming on board with Gallagher, who are obviously an expert in the rural ag space. So for us, it was a natural partnership to come on board and see how we can lead that conversation moving forward.
Well, thank you for that explanation about what you do and who Good Nature is. And Jeff, I believe I kind of skipped over introducing you too. So would you please talk about, your role in this space and how you fit onto this topic for the show, please?
Yeah, so I'm with Gallagher Animal Management. I've been with the company since about February of this year. I'm part of the North American product management team. So what I do is I help maintain our current products, but also help bring on new products to the market. So we look at companies like Good Nature, where we think, they're doing some great things and have a great product, and see some applicability in our market. So we bring them on as a partner. We've been really happy with bringing Good Nature on since July of this year in the North American market.
Well, awesome. Thank you. So let's dive into, how these traps work. Adam, you talked about how they're non-toxic, but they're very effective in killing the rodent right away. So can either one of you, I guess, talk through the process of how these traps work? And I will link a video or a website page in the show notes for people to view, but can you talk through that process, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got something I prepared earlier as well, but I thought I'd bring in we've got a cut trap, which is always a nice way to actually talk and show how the trap performs and what it's actually doing. So the trap can be set on and I'm sure it'll be seen in your link, but it could be set onto an actual mount here itself and set like so onto a fence post or the outside of a shed or the area you're looking to have that control. It also comes with a trap stand too, so it can be set on an angle and move around for internal use in roof cavities or in a shed or wherever you might be looking to have control also. So essentially it's powered by a CO2 unit, so that ties into there. This is obviously one that's cut open in half so you can see actually how it performs. We have here as a bolt that fires, and we have this little silver thing, which you can see there. That's for a leaf trigger. That is actually the thing that will actually dump the gas that sits in here, the CO2, to fire the trap to get the strike. A big piece of our tech actually, which is often overlooked, is where the lure itself. So we have the paste here that comes into in its own form. And this is engaged. You take off a a piece here, 10-cent piece there, which actually starts a magnet. You can hear that click as you take it on and off. And that actually starts, this is inside here is the paste that we're using to attract the rat to the trap itself. That'll start inflating over time, and it's over for 6 months. So it sits inside this cap here, which sits on top of the trap. And as it inflates and expands slowly, the pressure of being in the shroud cap here means that we know that over 6 months' time, the lure will keep dropping down consistently to keep it constantly available, but also constantly attractive as well. So the rat or the mouse comes to look for that smell. It can smell it, comes from up here and comes up to get it. As it does, it goes past this to get to the actual paste itself, and that'll fire that, and then it resets again. And with the CO2 canister itself, you get 24 kills, and then you can do in the lure for 6 months. So essentially, once you get a unit, you get 6 months of that constant control. If you go through more than 20 fill kills in that time, you obviously will have a lot of activity, but you're in the position where you can get another CO2 canister to top it up, or we often say in that situation, it's a good chance to get it. You probably need another trap if you've got that much activity in the area you're trying to protect as well.
So you said that takes care of rats and mice?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So then is there a counter on it too that kind of tells you where you're at with how many strikes? Because you said there's 24 strikes available with that CO2 cartridge? Yeah,
there is. So there's that counter comes on in our original product that sits onto the satchel canister itself, and will count the kills for it. There's two reasons behind that. One, as you articulated, is that it's to sort of count the amount of kill activity you've had, so you know when you might need to replace your CO2 canister. The other one is because scavenging is a real thing with the use of these traps. It essentially becomes a bit of a feeding station for nature. So often we know of other rats are the biggest eaters of other rats. So they'll come and drag their friend away, and then actually go and go back to the trap to put their own selves into the line of fire as well. We know that the likes of cats will come along and actually look under these. Eventually, it becomes a bit of a habitual process, and they know that actually, well, if I go to this trap, I find there's a rat sitting underneath that, or a mouse for me to eat. Of course, because it's all toxin free, there's no secondary poisoning as well, which we know is a really big part of our success in the rural space too, especially around livestock and with dogs and pets as well. So that then keeps the count of it. Our new product that we have just bring into market as well through Galahad is talks to an app as well. So your phone will collect all of that information for you. It gives us a lot more, visibility and ability to also help with getting the trap set up correctly, but also we're able to then give hints and feedback and talk to the consumer directly to say, hey, look, you've had your lure for this long, you've had it out for 5 months now, you probably do a top up. So you can go into your local retailer and go ahead and actually get another lure. Also counts those kills. And when you actually go up and touch your phone onto it, it'll give you a timestamp, it'll heat stamp it and date it as well, which it just starts collating information of when you're getting the kills, how frequently, and also we can start identifying trends within the farm. So if you're seeing every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., you're starting to get kills coming on again and again every week, you can start looking at the practices of what you might be doing on the farm to actually making those happen as well. It becomes a really important reporting tool too, and just gives a lot more visibility and assurance to the user that the trap is working, how it's working, and when it's working too, which can help identify some extra challenges.
Hey folks, it's Shay here, and I want to personally invite you as my listener to take the next steps in improving the profitability of your operation by signing up for my 2023 RancherMind series. The RancherMind program consists of producer-driven monthly calls that cover topics such as developing a reproduction program, labor challenges, cattle marketing, business development, and goal setting. I bring on industry experts each month to answer your specific questions. I also provide extra resources and a place for you to keep networking and moving forward without requiring you to leave the ranch. For more information, head over to my website, casualcattleconversations.com, and select the RancherMind Event tab. Let's keep moving individual operations and our industry forward. Well, that is pretty high-tech rodent management compared to anything I'm used to, but it's very interesting. I appreciate that. And I think the pet-friendly standpoint is really important because so many farms and ranches do have barn cats and cattle dogs around. And I know that's something my family has always kept in mind when we do have any rodent issues, or it seems like a higher population, is like, well, how do we keep the dogs safe as well?
Yeah.
So where do you recommend placing these? Like, what are like the good or bad areas to place these traps for better success?
Yeah, so it's part of the system for us is that we want to set up an actual trapping system. So when you buy one of our kits, you get the lure, the CO2, a trap stand, a tree mount. It's all ready to go for 6 months of trapping. The first part of it is getting the trap in the right place. So we have these that come with it too. This is a trap locator card essentially. And you get 3 or 4 of these and you put them around different locations. What we know often people do with pest control, they know the hot spots. There's a compost heap, there's a chicken coop. They assume they've seen the rats there. It might be at the bottom of a macadamia tree. So if they've seen the rats there, the best location is to go and put the trap straight away into that location. What we know is that by the time they've actually got to that hot spot that they're going to, chances are they've already found what they're looking for. So it's actually a little bit late. It's like we're going up to our favorite restaurant and someone on the side is trying to offer us a hot dog, whereas we're like, no, I'm already going to my favorite location here. So what we're trying to do is do things a little bit differently. And these here pre-feed with the lure that's in the paste that's actually in the trap itself. And in doing that, you start finding out the locations that the rats are prepared to stop and actually interact with the paste that we're using. And that might, sometimes it's not actually at the very hot spot you're trying to protect. It might be 10, 15, 20 meters away where they're actually more prepared to stop and engage with it. We also know, I guess, from our conservation routes that rats and mice will travel on these invisible pheromone trails. If you're in a barn shed, for example, and they're all coming in, they're all more than likely will be coming in through one corner or through the same corner and following the same pathway down and then going along the same wall because they're just following through their urine sense that they know in those pheromone trails this is a safe pathway for them to travel on. So, of course, getting the trap in the right place is often the most important part of that as well. So there's no point having one on the other wall if they're never actually going to go past it. So inside, outside, these become a really important tool to actually ensure that you're getting the trap in the right place at a location that they feel safe, that's on these highways that they travel, and in a position that they're ready to actually engage with that very pace. You then take those away. Once you start getting nibbles on the card itself, you'll see pretty significant chew marks. That tells you're in the right place. And then you take these away, replace that with the trap, which has the same lure attractant in it as well. And it's in a place you know is a good spot for them. And then that's when they just go looking for it the next day on that pathway and they go into the trap. And that often just creates a bit of you're then in the right place.
Well, thank you for that explanation. Do you have any specific customer success stories you'd like to share, either you or Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, we've got so many different use cases for us where it's been a fascinating journey, as you can imagine, a conservation tour in which we've done all sorts of great things locally and also more so globally now as well, where we're starting to put large amounts of these traps out. In a place in New Zealand, in Taranaki Moanga, they had 2,000 of these traps go out into large scale. And when you start putting them out in this a large density, you do it more around what you leave behind rather than what you are killing. So you measure it by a tracking rate. And I guess we know that we've had a lot of success in doing that to get it down to below 5%, which is a time you can reintroduce native wildlife and bird species. And I guess from that, we've also then, as we've talked to, evolved into these other opportunities. For example, in rural, we know we solve a problem there, of which we've got countless examples of where we've solved people from wanting to put a grid network over their whole farm, going around a large perimeter around the outside of their fences, essentially creating sanctuaries from the outside in. So rather than having it just on the hotspot, if you were to imagine an outside perimeter around on your main fence line, which can be really large sometimes, just having that constant control from all sides is a good way to stop the species getting in the very first place. The likes of substations and grain silos where food becomes as a challenge as well, and obviously you don't want to be, the use of toxin there isn't as effective and comes with its own challenges around food. substations. So we have power stations over here where we're doing a deal, an agreement with someone called Transpower. We have a lot of substations across New Zealand, which are unmanned, no one's actually looking after those as well. So for them, the problem we solve there is that they want to have a trap that's constantly available, that can kill again and again, because if anything comes in, they want to get it right there and then. They don't want to use toxins because of the risk that if a rat comes on into that area, it eats the poison, it's still got like 24 to 48 hours before it dies, and it can still actually then cause the damage to the wires that the actual power station is really trying to prevent, because that can be a serious issue for them as well. So they're saying, well, I can't be there constantly to rearm a manual trap. I can't, it's too much risk for us to not have an immediate death as well through using poison. So the best way for us to have something that self-resets, is constantly available, and kills them immediately as well. So yeah, we've got lots of those different case studies, I guess, and examples of where we've become a relevant application, which is cool.
Well, I'm finding this very interesting and have appreciated all the both of you have had to offer today. Do either of you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, just one thing. When you look at Good Nature and the product that they've developed, they really kind of revolutionized, the traps, because you have your traditional snap traps, you have your electric traps and glue traps and bait and poison. And then if you look across those to see which ones are toxic and not toxic, which ones are humane, which ones are pet safe, do they have multiple kills, or do you have to reset them daily? Can you use them outdoors? How much daily maintenance do they require? It's kind of cool to see their product, because I didn't know a lot about it. Rat and mice before that, but looking at their product, what's really neat is they solve all those. So, they're non-toxic, they're humane, they're pet safe, which is a big thing, especially on farms when you have other cat and mouse, other cat and dogs around the farm. They have multiple kills, and then outdoors, and then they don't require daily maintenance. So they kind of check all the boxes, which is really neat.
Well, awesome. Adam, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think much the same. Yeah, we're really excited to be having this conversation, and I'm really excited to be working, obviously, in partnership with Gallagher, and being leaders of having an open discussion around how pest control can be done in a rural setting and on farms. It's something we've learned a lot about over the years and understand that problem that we solve. And I think now that we have a partner like Gallagher, we're ready to have it in a much deeper way as well. So yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye.
And that's a wrap on that one, folks. Thank you for tuning in today and joining in on the conversation. Be sure to take this a step further and take the advice you learned and implement it on your operation. If you want to have a conversation about it, head over to my social media and send me a DM by following @CattleConvos and connecting with me there. Have a great day.